Good morning. So I work for the Joint Policy Committee, which is a body made up of the four regional agencies that we have in the Bay Area. So that is MTC, ABAG, BCDC, and the Air District. And Joint Policy Committee has three projects going right now, and I will just outline them and spend a little time on the third one because that's really I think most important to this gathering. All three are, but I think I'll stick to the third one for some detail. So the first project is around developing an economic development strategy for the region. And JPC is working with Bay Area Council Economic Institute, the 501c3 there, Sean Randolph and the gang, to do an economic analysis that would point towards more of a 21st century approach to an economic development strategy for the region. We have economic development strategies in different parts of this region, but for the 9-county as a whole, we are increasingly in a world where this metro region is in competition with similar metro regions around the world. And if we don't start to treat ourselves more like a city-state and more like a region that is interconnected in a number of ways, we are frankly going to be left behind in the 21st century. So the economic development strategy is aimed at getting at that. The second is around the energy transformation challenge, and there are three parts to this. One about local renewable power in the region, the second around energy efficiency and building retrofits and our building energy use, and the third around electric vehicles. Together, what we're trying to do, there are a number, as you know, there are a number of stakeholders, probably hundreds, working on those three issues in this region. Our added value that we're trying to bring to the table is to pull those stakeholders together and create more of a powerful and strategic planning approach to each of those three issues. So we don't have 50 different groups working on electric vehicles in parallel in a rather weak fashion, that we have a much more unified approach for both EVs, for local renewable power, and for energy efficiency in the region, and really to create strategic plans that will help guide and make, again, more powerful these efforts of so many stakeholders that are working. And a real link to those, all three of those, has got to be jobs in the region, and how each of those three opportunities create the potential for jobs in this economic crisis that we're in. So the third is the one that I'm working a lot on the second one, but I'm spending quite a bit of my time on the third, and I'll say a little more about that one. It's the Climate and Energy Resilience Project. So our aim in this project, it's a 6-month project, is not to do climate adaptation planning for the region. It's to set the stage for that kind of planning. Our objective of this project is that in March, we can gather a diverse group of leaders from the 3 E's and from government and get them to agree that climate adaptation planning this and preparing this region for the impacts of both climate changes and energy changes is something we need to do. There is not agreement that we need to do it at this point, especially with the economic crisis. We've gotten a lot of pushback that this is a nice thing to do, but it's something that can wait until we, quote, get out of the economic crisis that we're in. So we could be, I'm 62, that could be a while for all of us. So the idea is in March that we'd get them to understand this is a compelling set of issues that are hitting across our communities, and that we have to get planning about these things now, and we have to devote some significant resources to that planning effort. That's the object of our 6-month setting the stage. We think we can get there. And so what we're doing is kind of a 3-part project. One, gathering together, and I've got a little bit of some of it with me today just as a show and tell item. The research on the Bay Area in terms of climate and energy impacts. The research you heard earlier about some of the work Pacific Institute. This is one of the studies that's going on right now in the Bay. We are gathering a pretty good collection now, and our job is to help synthesize and present that material in a compelling fashion. So the impacts of sea level rise, of temperature change, of precipitation change, of extreme storms and all, and the impact of those things on public health, on the economy, on ecosystems and all. So the research is part one, and pulling all of that together, not original research, pulling together and synthesizing. The second is creating a set of memos around what are the potential strategies to deal with each of these impacts, both in the climate and energy worlds that are coming. It is not picking the strategies, that's later, that's the hard part, but it's more of an educational approach to leaders in our different communities as to what are the kinds of things we would do around sea level rise, what are our choices? What are our choices around heat waves and the various other things that are going to be happening here? And particularly with those strategies, starting to understand which ones have to be done regionally and which ones can be done locally. There's a whole continuum there that we need to understand better. It's not all local, it's not all regional, but we have to start to understand those in a more sophisticated way. So impacts, strategies, and then the big third section, and frankly where we're spending a lot of our time, on governance and on financing. How are we going to make decisions in this region of 101 cities and 9 counties and hundreds of special districts? And that's just the public sector. How are we going together make the decisions about the kinds of things we need to get going on in terms of adaptation and resilience building in the region around climate and energy with this kind of a governmental setup that we have? And how are we going to finance this? We've been calling around to various cities that are somewhat ahead of us in metro regions on these issues. Chicago has been working on climate adaptation for 6-7 years now. New York has done quite a bit of good work. Trav and I were just in New York talking with their planners. But nobody everybody's doing this on the planning side, and we ask them about financing, they'll go, that's somebody else's job. And that is a problem. So what we're working on as part of this project, how are we going to finance these, both the planning process, but especially the implementation of strategies that we get going? So I'll leave it at that and hopefully discuss this more in the Q&A. Thank you.